Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rebel News live stream panel discussion on this, a Friday, November the 7th, 2025. I'm David Menzies, and my beloved co-host from Montreal is Alexa Lavoie. How you doing there, Alexa? And by the way, please let people know how they can contribute to the show before I introduce our all-star panel.
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. The only problem is the winter coming.
Yes.
So for me, it's like a big deal. I don't like winter. But anyway, if you want to contribute to help us to continue our journalism and keep the light open, you can actually send us a super chat. You can do it on Rumble or YouTube. If you send more than $5, we will read your comment on screen. And if you have any kind of question for us or for our panelists, please give what you can.
That's true, because unlike the trained seals in the mainstream media, we do not take any carny liberal funding, nor would we accept it if, say, hell froze over and they offered it to us. So, yes, folks, please help us pay the bills. Now, without further ado, why don't we get to our guest? First of all, also from Montreal. Well, when she's not being incarcerated by Montreal's finest for insulting the sensibilities of Islamist roadblockers, we have superb independent journalist Natasha Graham. How you doing, Natasha?
I'm very well, and thanks for having me. Good to see everybody. It's nice to see their friendly faces.
Fantastic. Good to see that you're not in handcuffs today. And yes,
not today. There's still time.
I know the feeling. And you know, folks, I don't like to play favorites, but oh, what the hell. He's one of my favorites from the free state of Florida. It's Viva Fry. Viva, how are you doing there, my friend?
Not bad. I actually just got back from New Orleans. I got up to be a speaker at a conference called the New Orleans Investment Conference. And I've been traveling the States, and it's a beautiful, beautiful country. But coming to Florida, it's coming back home now. I love it. It's a beautiful place. Bourbon Street in New Orleans was everything everybody said it was, and I was there like 9 months.
Well, you know, Viva, as I said off air, one of these days I have to phone you and find out how to plan my exit strategy. Lady Menzoid and I are more and more looking south these days. For me, it's the First Amendment. For Lady Menzoid, it's the Second Amendment. So expect a call from me. So, guys, a very full schedule here. I think we'll begin on a very sad note. I guess we saw it coming, didn't we? But last night at the Universal Ostrich Farm in the wilderness of British Columbia, there were loud noises ringing out. Those were not vehicles backfiring. Those were indeed guns. And the target were all those hundreds of hostages. It looks like, well, they're all gone. Talk about the killing fields. First of all, why don't we start with you, Natasha? You know, I guess the beginning of the end, given that the law enforcement were there, given that the CFIA agents were there, was the fact that the Supreme Court of Canada refused to hear this case. What's your analysis on that?
It's very difficult for me not to get incensed by what's happening, because I think that any reasonable person who has some general knowledge about farming can understand that industrial scale chicken farms are not akin to this ostrich farm. And applying the same rules that are applied to birds that live 5 to 7 weeks makes absolutely no sense when they're applied to these massive ostriches in a small farming operation. And the fact that the courts won't hear the appeal, to me, is just further confirmation of the fact that they're ideologically captured. I no longer really see the courts as a justice system. I see them as a legal system, and I see them as an extension of the Liberal Party of Canada, which they really are at this point. I see them as the rubber stamp on bureaucratic overreach and tyranny. And I don't know how people can see it any other way, because any reasonable person looking at this has to wonder, is this really the only way that this could have been handled? There's no other alternative path to this. Like, why couldn't the birds be tested again? They don't seem sick. Like, this is the only way for them to be shot in the dead of the night. Like, it's evil. It's wrong. So I don't have the words to give like a dispassionate comment on this, because it's so wrong and it's so tyrannical and it enrages me. And I spent all morning crying. I was up all night watching. It's horrifying. It's horrific that this is happening in Canada.
No, I can't argue your points there, Natasha. But Viva, tell me, what are your thoughts? I mean, this story has been getting international attention, including from JFK Jr. And I know Ezra, at a press conference last month with a Liberal minister, he was saying, why not, given that we're trying to repair our relationship with the U.S., talk about the ostriches, reach out to JFK Jr. No, he didn't even get an answer for that. And as you saw, they've gone full steam ahead with this slaughter. What I'm asking you, my friend, what is the unspoken reason behind killing all these ostriches?
It's going back to the principle of communist regime. They never make a mistake. They never arrest a person. By definition, if they've arrested an innocent person, they'll find the time so that they have not arrested an innocent person, because the regime is infallible. You know, the old biblical expression, God shall not be mocked. When you think you're God, you shall not be mocked, and you will not be proven wrong. They issued the order in December 2024, the CFIA, hell or high water, they were going to defend that initial decision. And nobody was going to get in the way of them revising, reviewing that initial decision. They made their decision, and they are the God of Canada, and they're going to come down with the holy force of life and death and inflict death. It was, and Natasha said, the court system is a corrupt, captured system. It's there to serve itself. The gentlemen of the bar represent the gentlemen of the bar. You got the government making laws. You got the RCMG, and I won't use platform, Gestapo agents, in my humble view, enforcing it, and then you've got the courts ratifying. And they're just a big circle of corruption, protecting themselves, reinforcing themselves to the detriment of freedom in Canada. I just got to watch what I take. This makes you have evil thoughts, and you have to check your evil thoughts and not wish ill on anybody. But I'm channeling a little Mark Twain. I've never wished death on somebody, but I've read a great many stories with gleeful delight. Right now, I have very bad feelings for everyone involved. They are evil, and may they live a long, healthy life, hearing the echoes of those gunshots and the crying families for the rest of their lives.
And Alexa, I mean, to Viva's point, I guess it's one thing to have activist liberals, quite another kettle of fish to have activist judges. But in the bigger picture, and certainly to speak to what JFK Jr. was thinking, were these ostriches somehow some sort of a competitive threat to certain vested interests in the pharmaceutical industry?
Well, there is a lot to unpack in this situation. First of all, we know that the bird were actually healthy. There is some people who actually offered to retest them on their own dime. The fact that the Supreme Court refused to actually hear the case, and they invoked the Animal Health Act. So in this, there is two options: or you're killing the animals, or you're offering a treatment. But the thing is, those ostriches were healthy. And so my point is, we have the US offering to take them for some research, because they are really important for research. And the fact that there is nobody taking in consideration all those elements and decided to go ahead and kill all those flocks. that just means something. And it's speculation, but I think everything went too far to backtrack and to say, okay, we will not do it. Everything got so international that the government had to go ahead and to do the irreparable and to kill them. Because at the end of the day, if they didn't do it, what that can send as a message that the population can actually overturn the decision that the government is taking. I see that as an authoritarian regime who is not taking in consideration all the elements and just decide to take their own decision and not listen to either the US, but also the owners.
No, and to your point, Alexa, thank goodness we have Rebel News staffers on the ground. I talk about Drea Humphrey. She spent weeks there in total. Also, Sid Fizzard. If you might have noticed, folks, some of that drone footage showing basically now the corpses of these ostriches. And in typical government fashion, they didn't bring enough blue body bags, blue tarps to cover them. But hey, never mind. Folks, why don't we throw to a couple of videos. One is the moment Katie Pastanay, she's the daughter of the Universal Farm owner, that would be Karen Esperson. The moment she heard the shots ringing out, I guess in the wee hours of the morning. Here, check it out, folks.
Did you get stuck on the other side of the fence?
No, he was on this side.
Recently?
Well, I had talked to him when we found out.
Breaking. It sounds as though gunshots are being heard at the pen. I had to fight my way to get back on the property near the farmers, so I'm unable to film at this moment what's happening from the highway. We're going to get to Katie right now as she reacts.
Did you get stuck on the other side of the fence?
No, he
Very emotional, pardon me. And why don't we also throw to a short video? This is of the Universal Farm owner, Karen Esperson. She reacts as the RCMP kills the farm lights as the slaughter begins. What the hell? Here, check it out, folks.
They don't have the right. They had lights on us for a fucking month, and now they're going to hide in the dark while they're massacring my beautiful babies, healthy babies, and they're suffering. They are committing, breaking the Animal Health Act. They are suffering. They don't die in one shot unless you hit them in the head. They're killing my babies slowly, slowly.
Wow. Well, let's go to you, Natasha. You know, I know the members of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They're human beings. I'm sure many of them know this is wrong. This is not right. But I guess, well, they're just following orders. And where have we heard that phrase before?
Again, it's hard for me to kind of maintain decorum. I have absolutely no respect for people who will do something that's wrong because it's their job. It's that simple for me. I have absolutely no respect for them. They are supposed to protect and serve Canadians. We're taxpayers. We pay their salaries. They're not supposed to serve as the enforcement arm of an overzealous and tyrannical bureaucracy. That's not their purpose. So they swear oaths and then they don't abide by them. And I just have absolutely no respect for them. And I have all the respect in the world for police officers, who put their lives on the line and who behave honorably. I have absolutely zero respect for these. I don't know. They're like the mafia, you know. They're like the mafia in a uniform. What can I say, you know?
It's the term. The term was Hitler's willing executioners. I mean, it takes people to stop being human beings and just be human followings. And that's you imagine you've got the media, which is funded by the Liberal government, the courts, which are appointed by the Liberal government, the RCMP, which is the armed branch of the government. This is abject tyranny. This is what it looks like. And just following orders is not an excuse anymore. And you know, going back to the Supreme Court, they don't want to get involved. Just like Pontius Pilate, just wash their hands. You guys go execute, carry out the ultimate execution, metaphorically speaking and literally speaking. This is what they did. They just washed their hands. Well, we don't want to get involved. We'll defer to the federal court and the Federal Court of Appeal, and we don't have to think about it. And the orgiastic rapidity with which they went in and slaughtered those animals after they got the go-ahead. It was like a kid waiting to lose his virginity. It's like, oh, I got the go-ahead now. Run right in. Bang, bang, bang in the night. It was psychological abuse, psychological torture, animal abuse, and it was facilitated by the armed goons at the RCMP. They should know it, and they should know it for the rest of their lives. Do they feel bad? I'm sure some of them feel bad. Good. Those are cowards. I'm sure there were a lot who were very happy to see how many they could kill. Could they take them out with one shot? There were people gleefully ready to jump in and slaughter those animals as soon as they got the go-ahead from the courts.
You know, Viva, the last 5 years, they haven't been that good for law enforcement. I mean, here at Rebel, believe me, we still back the blue, even though members of various law enforcement agencies will arrest us if they suspect we're going to ask impolite questions of Islamists or transgenders. Those are the two most protected classes in Canada. But going back to the COVID days, I'll never forget a barbecue restaurant, Adamson Barbecue, literally all the King's horses and all the King's men, the Toronto Police Service mounted unit came flying in to shut down a barbecue restaurant by force, even though 400 meters away was a Costco superstore with its food service facility running no problem. What do you make of this disturbing trend, I would say, Viva, of officers not following their oath?
Oh, they are, look, I don't want to be generalizing, but you can't ignore the trend. They came in during the Ottawa trucker protest, beat the ever-loving hell out of veterans, joked about it in their private chats, which goes to show you they're not just following orders, they're rejoicing in it behind closed doors, pepper spraying dudes at Tim Hortons not wearing a face mask during COVID. They get off on the power, and ultimately they do have all the power and the monopoly of violence, and they love it. You know, you say, like, in any profession, there's going to be an 80-20 rule. 80% of the people are going to be decent and 20% are going to be bad apples, whatever. When you get into positions that are defined by their ability to wield power, that skews a little bit. And, you know, what we're witnessing right now is if there are any good cops, they sure as hell are silent to the point of uselessness. And what we have is an actual armed branch of a tyrannical government. It's full fascism in Canada, and I'm not being hyperbolic. You got media, you got corporations, you got government, the courts, and armed inflictors of violence. That is fascism, and it is modern day Canada.
And Alexa, I'm sure you're in agreement with Viva. If anyone has an opinion of the overuse of force, it is surely you. That day, and I was with you, I was on the other side of the demonstration in February of 2022, you being shot in the thigh by some sort of a canister from a law enforcement agent. Thank God you were shot in the thigh. I say that only because if you were shot in the head, we might be speaking of you in the past tense right now. What are your thoughts on this?
First of all, it was not just law enforcement. It was the RCMP who actually shot me. We need to actually mention this because the RCMP is now the extension of the arm of our Liberal government. They are so politicized and they are executing order instead of basing their action on their hope. I would say that I'm surprised to see what happened to the Ostriches from the West Coast. I would more expect that from the East Coast, especially in Quebec, because we know we have like one of the, as I say, I back the blue, but when it comes to the Quebec police, we know, and we saw them during the convoy. They were at the front line. They put them in the front line because they knew that they will execute the order. But saying that in the West, now I'm actually losing faith to see good cops who are standing their ground and say, I'm not going to do that. This is inhuman. I'm not going to slaughter bird. For which reason at the end of the day? This is invasion of a home, invasion of private property, and killing a family, because you can say whatever you want, but those birds were part of the family of those owners. Because if the government will now be able to come and kill my cat if they decide that my cat cause a risk for the public health, and they will not need any proof of that. They just say, we decide that your animal, it's a public health risk, so we are invading your home and we are just shooting your animal.
And guys, why don't we throw to a video of Justice Minister Sean Fraser? He's an intellectual titan, if I've ever seen one. Let's see where he weighs in on this injustice. Oh, but just one problem. He doesn't think it's an injustice. Check out this.
The Supreme Court has decided not to hear the death of the Ostrich cases. Mr. Justice, do you have any thoughts about the case not proceeding to the Supreme Court and whether the Ostriches should end their lives?
Look, we obviously are pleased to see the decision of the Supreme Court. It's important that the Minister of Agriculture and CFIA are able to protect the health of the general Canadian public and of the food that we consume in the poultry industry as well. This is a decision that is following the science and evidence, and I'm sure my colleague who has conduct to file will have more to say today.
The Supreme Court is not going to hear the case. That means, as far as I understand, the Ostriches will be terminated. Yeah. What do you think? You're a BC MP. And
I'm disappointed in the result, obviously. I think it goes to underscore the structural need for change within the CFIA, and I'm very disappointed in the Liberal ministers and the lack of communication that's coming from them.
Did you ask the minister to call off the call? She has the authority to do that.
I've had correspondence with the minister, yes.
Did you ask her that, though, specifically?
I'm sorry, I've got to get to QP.
The Supreme Court decided to go through with the call or dismiss the appeal. What does it mean for trade and the safety of flocks within Canada and our agri-food industry?
I haven't followed it close enough, except to say this: I wouldn't want to be Heath MacDonald. This can't be fun.
Just because of the reaction.
So my heart goes out to him.
Yeah,
there's significant public interest in this. It's incredibly difficult, and I wouldn't want to be in his shoes.
Because you're a BC MP, do you have any thoughts on the Supreme Court dismissing the appeal from Universal Ostrich Farms and the ostriches are going ahead to be culled?
No, I have no view. I haven't read the decision,
okay.
So I can bring to view on that.
Geez, that kind of explains why the NDP is such an irrelevant party right now. The ostrich what? But you know what, Natasha, let's start with you. Sean Fraser, he said it's important that the edicts by the Minister of Agriculture and, of course, the CFIA are followed through. You know, it's about public safety. It reminds me of the famous Ronald Reagan quote, "The greatest lie ever told is the following phrase, 'Hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to help you.'"
Yeah, these crushing mediocrities that were just featured in the video should offend the sensibilities of every Canadian. The fact that we pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for their absolute claptrap to tyrannize our neighbors is disgusting to me. That man in particular oversaw a mass invasion of our country to facilitate the Liberals being in government in perpetuity, because they know that most of the voters that they're bringing in, most of the people that they're bringing in will end up voting Liberal. So we'll just never, ever be able to get rid of them. I think he's a bad person. He's not just bad at his job. I would be shocked if he even spent 5 minutes looking at the case and learning about it. And I don't want to throw everybody off into the weeds, but it is worth noting that the COVID regime response, the tyranny, was based on the Imperial College modeling of one of the primary scientists. His name was Neil Ferguson, and he was instrumental in creating the panic and the overreaction and the tyranny that we all lived through for a couple years. If you go back in this man's career, he was also instrumental in introducing massive culls in Britain. So there was like hand, foot, and mouth, and they just culled a huge number of animals, and the work was highly criticized. It was based on modeling, both in the case of the COVID regime and in the case of these like mass culls of livestock. And then guess what? It turned out after years and years and years of culling cows and of culling badgers and of culling all sorts of animals that, the science came in, and it's actually not very beneficial at all.
Unbelievable.
So
can you imagine
people need
this?
to understand the roots. Like, it's the same bureaucrats ruining our lives over and over again.
Viva, to Natasha's point, Sean Fraser's resume, illegal aliens good, domestic ostriches that are not a threat to anyone, bad, and must be eliminated. Can you explain liberalism to us, my friend?
It's a mental disorder. I mean, we've grown up with the joke. Liberalism is a mental disorder. If you're not a liberal when you're young, you have no heart, and if you're not a conservative when you're an adult, you have no brain. Can you imagine this jackass who probably thinks the ostriches had something to do with consumption of meat, because he's mentioning chickens, keeping it safe. I don't think he knows a damn thing about the file. And then to say, following the science, this is the same jackass who believes that boys can menstruate and get pregnant. This is a 2S LGBTQIA plus fanatic lecturing about the science without appreciating he's an absolute buffoon. Underqualified is an understatement. These are idiots. And it's, who was it? Cicero who said it? If you don't get involved in politics, you end up getting governed by your inferiors. This is a lazy, arrogant man who loves the limelight, loves his deep breath, sighs as he comes in. He gets asked questions. He's so important. He's the new god. Probably doesn't know a damn thing about the file, and then lectures us on science. Sorry, Fraser. Boys can't have periods. They can't menstruate. They can't have babies. And you don't know jack squat about the science.
Alexa, I think Viva was being charitable in describing Sean Fraser as lazy and arrogant. He forgot another descriptor. Stupid. I think this is one of the biggest imbeciles in cabinet, and he's lecturing us on this being a good idea. What's your take?
He is the man who actually fell in every position that he had in the government. I remember he was like the housing minister. Where are we at now? So I'm not taking this man seriously in everything that he's saying. This man doesn't even know what he's doing inside the government. This man is just there and he's just like doing what he's been told to say or to do. But I'm pretty sure he don't understand what he's doing himself.
But Alexa, why is it in this Liberal Party? I mean, I look at Sean Fraser's resume. Every file he has handled is a disaster, but he fails upwards. I mean, he's the justice minister. That's a big deal. How is this possible? I thought Mark Carney was the adult in the room, the CEO, the businessman, but apparently he's happy with the typical usual suspects.
It's more you fail, more you get reward. More you get worse, more we will put you up, because at the end of the day, you don't understand what you're doing. So thanks God, he gave like more tools for the government to go further and impose more laws and more regulation. Listen, we see this in every sphere of our life right now. We are being ruled by some, sorry for saying that, but dumb people who believe that science, as Viva Fry say, that men can be women and women can be men, and that it's actually real woman and real men, and they cannot define what woman is.
Yeah, unbelievable. Folks, we're at the halfway mark, so let's take a quick ad break. And on the flip side, speaking of Sean Fraser, immigration, there's a hot topic. See you on the other side.
Gun bans make great distractions.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same rhetoric.
We will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us, Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
You like the hat? Me too. Same strong message about making Canada great again, but in a really cool color, black and gold. There's other colors available, and it's an all-Canadian site. So if you want to signal your tribe or trigger a Liberal, go to mcgahats.ca today.
You finished a long run. You're hot. And thirsty. This is what we call a last resort. If your most recent electricity bill says the rate of last resort, then your rate is like the half-finished water bottle you noticed sitting on a bench. It will serve its purpose, but there are likely better options available.
By connecting businesses with qualified candidates, Workforce Alberta helps employers change their story.
David, before we change topic, I wanted to add something. Do you know what all this remember me? I remember when the US was ruled by Joe Biden, and peanuts and the other animals were killed for absolutely nothing. So what the American did, they changed the government that is ruling the US. What the Canadian would do, they will re-elect Mark Carney.
Don't get me started. I think what we saw in the last election, Alexa, that's going to be taught for decades in political science classes. You know, a whole series of unfortunate events happening at the right time for the Liberals, and a projected supermajority Conservative government went to a Liberal minority government. But that's a topic for another day. But, you know, speaking of the U.S., indirectly, I'll get to what I mean in a second. You know, the budget was tabled earlier this week. And as always, what you need to do is go through the nitty gritty, because as they say, the devil is in the details. And we see that the budget offers mass amnesty for asylum seekers. And I think this is a horrible mistake. My reference to the U.S., when they asked Ronald Reagan after he got out of office, what was his biggest regret? What did he think his biggest mistake was? You might recall in the 80s, he offered mass asylum for illegals. Turned out to be the wrong call. Alexa, why don't we stay with you, because you have a great knowledge of this. You've been to the infamous Roxham Road so many times when the mean members of law enforcement in the RCMP, well, they reinvent themselves as the Royal Canadian bellhops, and they help the illegal aliens over the border with their designer luggage. What's your take on amnesty for so-called asylum seekers?
So first of all, now we talk about 500,000, but we need to know that this is the number of people. Like, we need to count. Okay, the illegal immigrant, the student visa, that the people will actually turn into refugee. There is so many people who are now who wants to claim refugee, but the problem is in this. Okay. They say starting in 2026. What do you think will happen in the couple of months to come? What do you think it will happen? People will flood into the country because they will know that they might have a permanent, like, sorry, I'm losing, like,
a chance at amnesty.
Yeah, but a permanent residency. And then afterwards, what we have C3, that is stable. Can we actually talk about the consequences of all this? Because at this moment, everybody is talking about we need to put the immigration under control. It's not by giving them all permanent residency with really light screening and then say, oh, you're a Canadian. What Canadian means now? What being a Canadian means now? Because when we look at the population in Canada that are immigrant, I think we are at what, 23% of immigration here of the population here in Canada. So we need to think first, do we want to screw what is left here in Canada? Or do we want to take action right now? Because what he's doing, it will just naturalize lots of people that we don't know their background check. There is probably some people who are, as of right now, glorifying like terrorist organization in our streets, who are maybe anti-Semite, or are probably maybe like part of the Muslim Brotherhood or other like terrorist organization who are just sleeper cell. Can we actually think of the consequences that this represents for Canada? Because I'm pretty sure that America, the US, will now consider Canada as a really dangerous country, and they might have some restriction for us to then go to the US. Because do you really think that the US will just stay there and just say, yeah, we will just let like everybody in Canada to come, when we know that we are just naturalizing like a bunch of people that we have light screening?
No, they are serious about border security, and they know that we're not serious. But, Tasha, in the bigger picture, we have temporary foreign workers, we have international students, we see asylum seekers about to get mass amnesty. Let me put it this way. I don't know what it's like in Montreal, but in the GTA, I swear to God, I cannot remember the last time I went down a main street and I saw a placard in a shop window saying help wanted. And the point is, we have super high unemployment, especially in certain areas. Windsor, Ontario, 11.2%, the highest it has ever been since they started keeping those stats. Youth unemployment, I think, is at 14.7%. Well, how the hell are Canadian citizens supposed to get a job when we keep importing people to take those jobs?
Yeah. I don't think there's any design in the Liberal policies to increase employment. I think they want as many dependents as possible because that's how they get votes. They make people broke, they make them dependent. And the productive class has to fund all of this. And the productive class is getting smaller and smaller and smaller under the yoke of all of these policies. And their voter base is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't think they're bringing all these foreigners in because they have warm hearts. I don't think that the motivation is to make Canada a stronger country. I think it's simply to have voters in perpetuity so that the communism will continue and we will never, ever be able to vote our way out of this. I see it as treason. I don't think there can be a logical argument made that this is not treasonous. I did not sign up to have my daughter's future signed away by these crushing mediocrity turncoat traitors. I didn't. And people who will only argue this on economic grounds are also missing the point. We have a culture in Quebec. This is one thing that Quebec does well. Quebecers will assert their culture and they will say, we don't do that here. We're not interested in your silly BS from whatever backwards country you're coming from. If you want to come here, this is how you live. That's it. The rest of Canada, they still are too squeamish to make comments like that. And so not only are we flooded by people who are taking entry-level positions from the youth, not only are we dealing with catastrophic infiltration in our trucking industry of corrupt Indian trucking companies who are giving fake licenses basically to people who are from Punjab. Not only are we dealing with the drug trafficking of the same cohort, but the conservatives won't even really identify the problem as it stands and talk about culture. So it's very, very, it's catastrophic. And I don't see people with strong enough rhetoric because they're still afraid of being called racist. I don't want to live in the Middle East. That doesn't make me a racist.
No, I totally understand. Viva, to Natasha's point, I truly believe that under the Biden administration, the reason why there was open borders and an estimated 21 million illegal aliens came into the U.S., they want to change the demographics. They want to tell those illegals, hey, remember, every 4 years, vote Democrat. We're the guys that got you American citizenship. And likewise with the Trudeau liberals, now Carney liberals, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We're not going to stop you at the border. And wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We're going to give you amnesty to become a Canadian citizen. Just remember, every federal election, vote red. Is this what's going on, or am I just too damn cynical here?
No, you're 100% right. The montages of Democrats saying demographics is destiny is out there. I mean, it's tactics, it's strategy, it's not racist conspiracy theories. But there's a few points to make here. First of all, Reagan was wrong on amnesty. That's fine. There were something like 3.5 million illegals in the country when Reagan was talking about it. You're up to now 20, if you can believe the number, which I don't, give or take. And so amnesty is going to be a demographic change, a culture shift of the country. And this is in America. In Canada, it's going to be the same problem. You just have a smaller population. But also, asylum seekers. How are we defining asylum? They're defining asylum by financial status, corporate, not corporate, but looking for a better life economically, economic asylum. And when you've got people, I forget where I saw this and heard this, but so-called asylum seekers vacationing to their home of asylum from which they've claimed asylum, you realize it's just rebranding of open borders. And, as relates to open borders and terrorism, what is it, like 90 some odd % of all people on terror watch lists nabbed at the border going to the US are nabbed at the Canadian side? Because they're giving visas away to Indians, to Pakistanis, left, right, and center, student visas that they default on 5% of the time. And they are threats. And then they try to crawl into the States to do Lord knows what. And it is, like Natasha said, at the point now where Canada has become a national security threat to the United States of America. And jobs, I mean, it's all by design. Just make it so bad that it's a disaster to govern. The Canadians losing jobs to foreigners, it's corporate corruption. When they give these $35 an hour jobs at Tim Hortons to foreigners, it's subsidizing the corporation. They don't pay those employees what they say they're going to pay them. They exploit those workers. The corporation gets the subsidies, and that is laundering tax dollars to corporations. And it's exactly how the Liberals get into power, stay into power, and now that they've lost so much of the support among the population, they've got to import the next generation of voters to have it be a one-party state for the rest of Canadian history.
No, you're so right. Go ahead, Alexa.
But also, it's really easy to control a population when the population lost their identity, when nobody will know what Canadian means to be, and that the government would just put more regulation and rules, and that like everybody can be called a Canadian. I mean, if you never actually put a feet into Canada, I think it's really easy to control a population when the population is just lost in their own identity.
Guys, let's change gears here because we're running out of racetrack, and let's go counterclockwise. I'll start with you, Viva. Every year around this time when we wear this beautiful sacred little red flower in Canada to remember our veterans and our war dead, there is always, almost every year, going to be what I call a poppy bozo eruption. It's typically something like a branch office or store from a U.S. company like Home Depot, which several years ago kicked a elderly veteran off its premises who was selling poppies, not understanding the significance. Then a couple of years ago, Whole Foods telling their staff, you're not allowed to wear anything politically. Oh boy, within 2 hours of that news breaking, they did a complete 180, and the following year actually had poppies at their stores that they were giving out to free. That's how bad the backlash is. But Viva, what do you make of this? A judge ordering a prohibition of poppies while those in the court are on duty. I mean, it got the Nova Scotia Premier to slam this judge's order. Surely a judge in Canada understands the poppy, understands the significance. What's your take on this? This is the craziest poppy bozo eruption I've ever seen.
Well, there's an expression that 5% of lawyers give the other 95% of lawyers give the other 5% a bad name. When you understand who becomes a judge, that becomes even more concentrated.
Oh, no.
These people are not smart because they became judges. They became judges because they love the power and they are hungry and eager to use it. What the ultimate irony is, look, we'll see what happens at a higher level. It'll be like the Nova Scotia prohibition on outdoor protests to protest the COVID measures, which got overturned by the Court of Appeal. You know, these lower level judges, there are a lot of them, and they're not always the best qualified. But the irony is, you show up with a trans flag, a little 2S LGBTQIA plus pin, and you'll be the hero of the courthouse.
Oh, yeah.
Show up with something that actually celebrates the people who are actual heroes and actually fought for freedom, and not the freedom to tell your neighbors to shut up. Then it becomes political. Then it becomes the patriarchy. Then it becomes white man racism. The judge should have his ass handed to him. He should be removed from the bench. I forget exactly what the procedure is depending on the province. But these are idiot activist judges who love wielding their powers for political purposes, and they think they have the political permission slip to go this far. But wear a trans flag and see the praise that you get from that judge. I guarantee you.
Oh, you're so right. And Natasha, what I find so perverse and profound about this issue, that does this judge not realize, had the Allies not won the Second World War, we are in a dictatorship. We are speaking German. There's no such thing as open courts and true justice anymore. To Viva's point that he's an activist judge, what cause is this judge promoting with a poppy ban?
I think they do understand our history. I think they know our symbols. I think they know the meaning, and I think they spit on them. I think they hate veterans. I think we had a prime minister who awarded $10.5 million to a convicted terrorist who killed a U.S. serviceman. I think they're despicable people, and I think they know exactly what they're doing. I think they spit on our veterans, on our traditions. I come from a military family. I know a lot of veterans, and now we have veterans being offered maids. So is it any shock instead of help? Is it any shock that there's a judge who doesn't want a symbol of Canadian excellence, of Canadian patriotism in the courtroom? It doesn't surprise me at all. I think, as Viva said, they're just lawyers in robes. That's all they are. They're lawyers who are lawyers for 10 years in robes who are good little liberals. And the liberals spit on our culture. They spit on our traditions. They hate our veterans. They have friggin' tampons in the men's washrooms at this point. Like, I can't put any lipstick on this pig. I just can't.
Alexa, it was 6 years ago, almost to the day, when we watched the last Coach's Corner. He was speaking out for the poppy. He was wondering why people aren't wearing poppies. I can tell you, we've gone down to Young Dundas Square at 10 a.m. on November 11th on previous years, and did a poppy count. And I would say, and remember, this is just 1 hour until the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Easily 95% of the people not wearing poppies. For Don Cherry to speak out against this, the cancel culture mob came after him, and he was executed. So now we see this, anti-poppy rhetoric somehow getting into the court of the land. I find this, disturbing. I would think if there's any bastion where the poppy would be respected, it would be in the courthouse, but apparently not according to this activist judge.
Well, first of all, some judge or activists, we need to tell it like it's obvious. Sorry, I have a hard time with my English today. But the thing is, the poppy represent not only the veteran, but the people who die for our freedom and our democracy. And for some of the judges that are activists from the left, that represent also the colonization. So we have some people who are really against that, and we are seeing it. And we have like some judges that are proud of themselves because they didn't reject any refugee case that they had in front of them. Same if sometime they should have been refused, reject, deport. Some of the judges are really proud, saying like they actually did accept all of their cases. We have currently a justice system that are unfortunately hijacked by the radical left and radical left ideology. And I think this will just get worse if we are not doing something regarding it.
Yeah, and good for Premier Houston, who I don't normally agree with, for speaking up on this. Folks, we got 4 minutes left, so why don't we do this? Why don't we throw to our daily cringe video? It's Mr. Kerry Petty making an announcement, and we'll see what he has to say, yesterday's man, and then we'll just go around the horn and get your 30-second take on it. So, is Justin Trudeau's flu season message.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Okay.
So long as he doesn't ask to talk to the children today.
Oh, I apologize. It's not a video. It is a statement. It's about Justin Trudeau. He got, both his COVID-19. Somebody buy him a calendar, for God's sakes. It's almost 2026, and his flu shot today, and he encourages Canadians to do the same. So let's start with you, Alexa. Is Justin Trudeau, yesterday's man, is he an influencer now?
He is just a narcissistic who actually he just wants some attention. And now that he's not our prime minister, now he's going for Katy Perry, and now he's going for another shot of COVID-19. Seriously, this man just wants that people talk about him. He just wants to be everywhere, and that everybody talk about him. That is badly or in a good way. He just like to be like the front page of everything. Just look at me, I'm so great. And he's doing so much like virtue signaling. It's just ridiculous at this stage.
Well, you know, Natasha, too bad there's not a vaccine out there for narcissism.
Yeah. You know, I don't think I've ever been so wrong in my life as when I was having a conversation with my cousin before he got into politics, and she said he's going to get into politics and Canadians will vote for him. I didn't believe it would happen. I said he's a vainglorious buffoon. Nobody will ever vote for him. I've never been so wrong in my life, and we just can't get rid of him. 10 years was not enough. We just can't get rid of this silly, vainglorious bimbo.
Mm-hmm.
You know, well said, Natasha. And Viva, I mean, with all we're learning about COVID-19, even from the ringleaders like Dr. Fauci, you know, that 6 feet of social distancing, we just made that up. It just sounded good. And here you've got the ex-prime minister. What are we up to in terms of boosters, in terms of COVID-19 shots? Well, I guess the proof is in the pudding. Viva, this weekend, are you going to go out and get a COVID-19 shot?
You would have to tie me down and sedate me to get it. And even a flu shot, I just want to highlight something. First of all, his smolder face makes me want to vomit. I mean, it's like the smolder from that movie Tangled. And I don't know that, first of all, I don't believe he's actually getting the booster. And that's my own personal opinion. I also am fairly certain you're not supposed to inject vaccines into tattooed areas, and that this virtue signaling whore has to show his indigenous tattoo as though he got the shot there. I know that you're not supposed to get it in tattoo areas because it can cause a reaction. It can interfere with the ink. And I think he didn't get it. but he has to pretend that he did and virtue signal his muscular tattooed arm to show off his tattoo to the kids. I hate that man. I hate Justin Trudeau, and I know it's a bad thing to hate people. It's sort of a humorous hate. I hate him. I will mock him for the rest of his life. He's an awful, awful man, and the only indirect consequence of his awfulness is that his kids have to deal with it for the rest of their lives, and they shouldn't have to. He's a bad, bad man, and I don't believe he actually got the shot.
And you know, Viva, when you're talking about his tattoo, my failing eyes were focusing in. Was that a Shoppers Drug Mart logo on the
It was
Band-Aid?
a Shoppers Drug. I had to look it up to make sure there's Shoppers Drug Marts in Canada, but that was a Shoppers Drug Mart on his cultural appropriation tattoo. That is the patriarchy, ladies and gentlemen.
So in addition to Shoppers hiring bearded transgenders for their beauty area posters, another good reason to go to your independent pharmacist, I suppose, if you got blackface shilling for them. Unbelievable. Folks, we got to wrap it here. Viva, where can our viewers find you?
Well, I'm on Rumble, 3 o'clock daily. I'm going to be on today with a guy named Stanislav talking about the proxy war against Russia. But 3 o'clock daily on Rumble. I got my vlogs on CommyTube and Rumble. And Sunday night, Viva and Barnes Law for the People, the best law show out there.
Well, we love Rumble. It's a true free speech platform. And Natasha, where can our viewers find you, my friend?
They can find me on X. They can also find me on Rumble. They can also find me on YouTube, although I try not to promote it as much. But I'm going to be doing a really interesting interview. I'm very excited. That's coming up with an American expert on terrorism funding, and I cannot believe that he agreed to come on it. I'm really, really excited. So I'm not sure exactly when it's going to be. We're trying to figure out the schedule, but that's going to be one that is upcoming. And I'm also going to be doing a video about the Halloween hater who's being imported into Quebec. She went viral, and I've discovered some really interesting things about her life that I would like to bring to the Canadian public's attention. So stay tuned for that.
And by the way, Natasha, don't forget that this woman in question, I saw him multiple times during those protests, during Montreal for Palestine. I don't know if you remember her, but I do remember
I
her.
remember. She's hard to forget. She's very visually arresting.
You know, Natasha, my favorite Yiddish word is chutzpah. Sheer unmitigated gall. And for this newcomer to be welcomed into Canada and go on that tirade against the Canadian tradition of Halloween, why the hell are we bringing in garbage like her in the first place? What an ingrate, what complete and utter chutzpah. That's what I have to say. I can hardly wait for your report. And Alexa, last word goes to you. Are you working on anything our viewers should keep their eyes and ears open for?
But at the moment, I have a lot of reports, but mainly in French, so I'm sorry for the English viewer. But I'm actually, at this moment, investigating on some prominent faces of the pro-Hamas marches that we are seeing. So I'm actually currently digging on some information, and I hope I would be able to divulge what I actually found out so far.
Yeah, we got to get the official response from Hamas, their position on Halloween. I know some of their members in Canada like to cosplay as the dead terrorist Sinwar, but maybe they're kind of waffling on when it comes to dress up. Last order of business, folks, we have 2 super chats, I believe, Alexa.
Yes, we do. Let me just check. So we have Sevenfold 7777. He gave us $5. In other news, cops continue to investigate themselves and find no wrongdoing.
Shockers. How did I know how that chat was going to end? Thank you very much for the contribution. And one last super chat, Alexa.
Yes, we have Alex Greer, $6.99. Thank you very much. And there is nothing there, but he gave another $2.79. And she said, "Très bon, Alexa. Great work, rebels."
Oh,
Dave,
thank you so much, Alex.
Dave, one thing
Yes,
One thing
Viva.
I forgot to mention, just to throw this out there, I'm going to explore it. Just to go back to the ostrich issue. You said they killed all of them. They had scientific value. It's not for nothing that they couldn't account for some 100+ ostriches, and it's not obvious that the government actually didn't already take out some ostriches for their own scientific research purposes, pharmaceutical purposes, and then proceed with a slaughter of the rest, claiming it was all of them. So this is my humble suspicion right now, because we were saying that we couldn't account for 100+ ostriches. Now they've killed the rest. It's not inconceivable if they smuggled out what they needed for their own research purposes, pharmaceutical purposes. So I'm going to look into that myself.
Do you know what? That is absolutely fascinating. Full disclosure, I don't know if that's true or not, but to your point, Viva, it kind of gives some explanation why the RCMP killed the lights to carry out this operation under the cloak of darkness. Nothing fishy about that, of course.
No, and if they don't account for 330 ostrich carcasses that were under the custody of the CFIA, we've got a problem.
We sure do. Well, folks, thank you so much. This was...
Wait a minute. We have another chat that just went in.
I saw that one.
So we have Mad Lab Press, and she or he gave $69.99. So thank you very much. That's really generous.
Well, Mad Lab Press is definitely a he. His name is Jay Bannister. He's an ex-Toronto police officer who's now a watcher of the cops via Mad Lab Press, and believe me, the brass hate him. So keep up the good work, Jay Bannister. And folks, do check out Mad Lab Press. Jay's videos are fantastic. But we really do have to wrap it here. And thank you, Jay, for that very generous donation. I will be back with Sheila, the She-Devil Gun Read on Monday. In the meantime, I hope you all have a terrific weekend. And as always, stay safe and stay sane.
Big news, Rebel News now has premium memberships on X,
not always.
Locals, and right here on YouTube. For just $4.99 a month on YouTube, you'll get loyalty badges, custom emojis, and access to members-only chats during our live streams. At $8.99 a month, you'll also unlock Rebel News Plus shows and our documentaries. But here's the catch. YouTube could cancel that premium tier at any time. That's why the best way to support us is at rebelnewsplus.com. It's just $8 a month, cheaper if you go annual, and you'll get exclusive extras like an ad-free site, comments access, and even the chance to submit op-eds. Wherever you join us, thanks for keeping our independent journalism